Good afternoon, Jeffrey. How you doing? You well?
I'm I'm great. I'm just happy to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me to have this chat. It's amazing.
No, thank you. Because I saw your new book is about to do bits, and I'm judging by all the books behind you that you're a bit of a bookworm. But it was the headline. I say the headline, the title of the book that really grabbed me.
Yeah.
Musical Truth, a musical history of modern Black Britain in 28 songs.
That's right.
28 songs, Jeffrey.
28 songs.
Do tell.
Yeah, I mean, the whole 28 songs thing, a lot of people are asking you, why 28? Is there some kind of mystical reason? Is there some symbolic thing going on? It's just that I wanted it to not be too extensive a playlist, because it was originally aimed at a younger audience, but at the same time, I kind of wanted it to be pan-generational. So I was ambitious. I wanted everyone from the ages of like 10 to like 99 to be able to access this. So I didn't want it to be a long playlist that goes too deep into the crates. I wanted it to be accessible. So I was hovering around 20 and I thought that's not enough. And then it reached a point where basically my track list got to 2020 and it was hovering around 28 songs. There were a few that didn't quite make the cut and a few more I could have added, but it sort of stopped naturally around that number. Maybe I should have gone to 30 just to round it off a little bit, but 28.
I mean, there's always scope to go back and do it all over again. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of conjecture on what you did eventually choose. So in terms of how you came to your decision making and how you crafted the book, talk to me a little bit about the process.
I started with basically my own autobiography. So rather than intellectualizing it too much, I just thought about my own life and songs that had impacted on me. And a lot of it was songs growing up. So when I started thinking about it, it kind of kicked off in the 80s, because I'm 1982, I'm an 80s baby. A lot of my formative years, I grew up in Brixton. So a lot of the music around me was shaping who I am. So we're talking about stuff from the 80s and 90s, reggae, dancehall, hip hop, soul. But then when obviously as you grow, you go back into the crates a little bit, you look at your parents' music, you look at people older than you. So that was more a case of exploring what came before me. And I'm just really interested in the links between things. I love the idea that music is like a conversation with itself over many generations. So everything that I was listening to had a clear lineage reaching back into recent history, or even further back into much older history. So that allowed me to look backwards, and then I just got more contemporary. So that was the kind of process. And it was just songs that I felt said something about the Black British experience and that either reflected the narrative or could help us to understand the narrative. Because it's basically, not to get too deep straight away, but it's a lot of stuff that's just been sidelined, that we're not taught about in schools, that's not talked about in the mainstream. So this was a chance to get into those conversations centering Black British identity rather than putting it on the margins. So that was my thought process, if that makes any sense.
It does. And what I find is that you are showing your age. You are an 80s baby because you refer to digging in the crates, right? Now, if you're of a certain age, you will not know what he meant by digging in the crates. You will be baffled. He means the records, vinyls, the crates that we used to have stored all over the house, up and down, wherever. Cellar, basement, you name it, attic, you name it. You're, like you touched on, attempting to redefine or chart history in an unconventional way. I guess what I really want to know is what prompted you to use music. I know, because that's what drew me in. It's like, oh, no one's really done it that way, I guess.
Yeah.
Not with Black music anyway, Black British music specifically, charting the Black British experience, a modern Black British experience.
Exactly. I think the thing about music is that, like, first of all, I'm a big fan of music, which sounds obvious, but some people aren't. You go to some people's houses and there's no music playing. It's scary, what's going on? So I'm a big fan of music, like my whole life. And everything that's going on, a lot of the time, the Black experience can be centered on trauma. It can be centered on resistance and protests, but there's also celebration in there. And sometimes these things are all mixed up: the pain, the resistance, the celebration, the trauma, the strength. And I think music can really capture that. You can get music with hard messages that are political and are telling you something about the world, but at the same time, they're inviting you to celebrate that culture, those people, that artist, that genre. And so to me, it becomes an important thing to try to recognize that. And actually, anyone can put a song on. And I think that's such a great entry point into a culture. Put a song on, let it hit you, like let it move you, let you dance or sing along or whatever. And then that exploration of what was going on, the lyrics, the artist, the context, the political context, you know, the philosophies, that then is an entry point into that much deeper stuff. So on the one hand, I'm just a fan of music. On the other hand, I love analyzing stuff, you know, and I've written about music quite a lot as well. And I personally find that I'm a bit of a geek. Like I enjoy picking apart tunes, and I used to DJ. So I've got that kind of mindset as well, where I'm interested in music on various levels. Can I get people to dance? Who made the record? What does it say about what was going on? All those different levels always fascinated me. So it was a no-brainer really that I would write a book about history, but tie it into the tunes at the same time.
No, it's definitely a great segue from, you know, sometimes a lot of the conversation that dominated 2020 and everything that happened there with Black Lives Matter and Black lives in particular, and just a wider demographic understanding some of the nuanced experiences that they might have been exposed to, but just was over their heads. And last year they sat up and took note, but a lot of that was, like you said, it was invested in trauma. It was born from a negative place. So I'm imagining that what you've presented here is a great Kickstarter for conversation and a great entry point for, you know, Black culture in a way that some people may never have thought to even embrace or digest it.
100%. You've articulated that perfectly, actually, because, you know, I've got to be real about it. You know, we live in a country where Black people are like a single-digit percentage of the population. You know, like just over 3%. Like it's small, but there's a lot of us. There's a lot of Black people in this country, and Black communities have like been central to British culture, British history in lots of different ways, not just in the music, in the artists, in the sport, but also intellectually, politically. And if you want to go back even further, like economically, you know. So Black Britain is just Britain. It's just it's just been sidelined so much. So a lot of the other like 82% mainstream white populace, they will know this stuff. Like they'll look through my playlist and go, oh yeah, I've heard that song, I've heard that, but I haven't really heard it. You know, they haven't really listened to it, they haven't experienced it. You know, they might have heard Ghost Town, but they might not have really thought about what that song is trying to tell you. They might have heard John Barnes rapping on World in Motion. Everyone knows that rap, but you haven't really thought hard about what that moment might have meant. So part of this is just me like being a teacher and like being provocative and going, yeah, these are songs that you've heard, but do you really know what's going on behind the surface? Have you gone deeper into this history? And that again is where the music is like an easy route in to maybe more difficult and, you know, necessarily difficult conversations, so people can actually see what was going on. That's why it's called musical truth, isn't it? It's like I'm trying to push for truth, because a lot of people don't even know what they don't know. You know, that's what we're starting with. So
I'm beginning to see why it is that you're a teacher. You're obsessed with educating and I guess disseminating information in order to just put it out there for people to be educated and upskill themselves. So it looks like you've been doing that for a long time. I know this isn't your first foray into authorship. You've co-written a book before.
Yeah.
Did that experience of your last book help you for this one?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm really working on a canon of books now. Like, you know, I kind of realized the other day that what I'm doing in publishing now is almost like activism. You know, my first book was about grime, and it was also centered around songs, Hold Tight. And that was looking very much at Black masculinity, looking at the millennial generation, Black identity. Next big book was Blacklisted, which is about Black identity through a list of words and terms. And that was continuing the conversation. Like, what does it mean to be Black in this country? What are we called? What do we call ourselves? What do we call each other? That was really opening it up. And then I wrote a book about masculinity with a good friend of mine, Darren Chetty, which is just about what does masculinity mean, which is like a wider concern. All of these things, they complement one another, because ultimately I want to recenter certain marginalized narratives, or to actually not recenter, I just want to center them, because I think one of the big problems here is that when you get marginalized for too long, you just got no agency. Like, your story becomes pushed so far into the shadows that no one is even able to empathize with you, you know? So I feel like I've got a responsibility now as a writer to just shift the needle towards and to center these narratives on behalf of the community, but for everyone, because we can all uplift from centering marginalized narratives. That's one of my personal beliefs. You know, we all gain by taking that person that's in the corner and bringing them into the light. We can all benefit from that, no matter who that person is. And the Black community has been sidelined for, well, it's pretty obvious, you know, like since the 40s onwards, you know. You know.
Yeah. I mean, that could lead us down a rabbit hole. So let's stay above the surface. Your book for me is one that I feel that every youngster should have on their shelf, not necessarily to read cover, you know, to back, but to reference and just to kind of keep track of it. And so that, I guess you're going to probably do another one. This will probably turn into a series, right? In 10 years' time, when you'll be, you know, looking back at what constitutes modern music, modern Black music, and seeing how that's influenced that, you know, not the 80s baby, not the 90s baby, but that millennial. And I don't like to refer to them as Generation Z. I just think that's a little bit, I mean, how do you refer to a generation of people as Z? I mean, what comes next?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't like that. But anyway, we digress. But, you know, I just feel that they're going to need that book just to really, really understand the contribution. Listen, where can people find out more about you? And, you know, I know you DJ, I know you do other stuff. But do you lead a private life? Are you like that author or do you keep your head above the parapet? Are you active on Twitter? Talk to me. Where can people find out more about you?
I'm doing the usual sort of social media moves. I'm on Twitter, Jeffery Boakye. I'm even on Instagram. I'm not sure why I'm on Instagram, but I'm on Instagram. But I've got a website, jefferyboakye.com. So you can sort of find me there. But I tend to end up like cropping up in various channels because I do bits of journalism and so on. So you see articles floating out around, you know, that I contribute to across various topics. But yeah, follow me on Twitter. It's a bit random though. When I get on Twitter, there's all sorts of conversations kicking off. You know.
That might be a reflection of you yourself, your interests, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, if there was anything that you could succinctly say that you'd like people to take from the book, you know, what would that be?
I think the main thing is to sort of like take the hand of the Black British community, however you want to envisage that community. Take the hand of that community and go on the journey with. That's why I wrote it in chronological order. That's what it's about. Really understand all the steps that have been taken, all of the barriers that have been faced, all of the pitfalls, and to then understand what it means to be Black and British now and how that affects Britain as a concept. That's what I want people to understand, because then hopefully we can start to go forward in more positive directions.
Jeffery Boakye, author of Musical Truth, the musical history of modern Black Britain in 28 songs. Appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you.